Hello, and welcome to Here's the Thing with Robbie and Jose, where we explore relationships through a male and female perspective. With me, as always, is the lovely Robbie.
Hello, Jose.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I don't know why we laugh every time we start. Doesn't make any sense.
I think it's just the novelty of it. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
And I hope I never lose it. I hope I never like, hey, this is Robbie.
This again. I had to talk to this
Here's
girl.
the thing with Robbie and because if I do that, maybe it's time to give it up. But no, I mean, I enjoy it and I get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
We have a little intro and everything. I
went-
still remember when I was writing the intro and trying to figure out, okay, should I word it this way? Should I word it that way?
I do remember that. It seems like a long time ago.
Yeah. And if you listen to some of the older episodes, it wasn't exactly that.
Yeah.
Like we eventually fine tuned it and like now we got a good, like, now it's set.
Yeah. If this is your first time listening, like in the beginning, I mean, it's a little rocky, but come on now. I mean, like every podcast is a little rocky in the beginning. Like,
Of course, just like relationships. What? No, just
what? Yeah.
feeling your way around, trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
before you settle in and,
Yeah.
have fun.
I wanted to tell you the other day, I was at my family's house and I don't know if you know this, but Clueless, the movie, came out with a board game. And yeah. So my sister bought me this board game as a gift. And one of the things on there, like a little segment of the game was debate class, right? And it was like a little pog kind of coin. And on one side it said like pro and one was con. And you flip it in the air and whatever the subject is, like you had no choice, right? You
Right.
had to like whatever.
Right.
So one of the ones I did was pickup lines. And when I flipped the coin, I had pro. And you know how I feel about pickup lines, right?
I know. So you really had to think about
I
this because
did.
what is a pro? I don't think, were
Well,
you able to think of any
I did.
pros?
I
Okay.
actually won. So this is what happened. So once you, like two people will give their debate and then everybody else that's playing the game gets to vote on who they think won based on their argument.
Okay.
And I did win that one. And it was funny because my nephew was there and he said like, yeah, you seem really passionate about this, even though it's funny because I don't like pickup lines. But when he started talking about, he was like, yeah, this whole night, this whole game, you've been very passionate about everything that you've said.
Yeah.
And it kind of got me thinking about like, if this is your first time listening to the pod or you have listened before, I know sometimes I can come off as like, it sounds like I'm angry, but like, I'm really not an angry person. I just get very
Sure you're not.
passionate. Like, is that like a bad thing to be like,
Angry
I don't
all the time?
know,
No, I'm just
passionate, like how I get on some of these episodes. Like if I'm trying to make a point, I know it comes off like that, but
Yeah.
I don't mean it like that.
Trust me, you're talking to the guy that gets misunderstood a lot. And I tend to get loud whenever and it again, you're right, it's passion. It's not that I'm upset or
Yeah.
wound up about it, but yeah, you can get loud. What we have to sometimes stop and think about is how other people are taking it.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It's so weird, right? Because you know what you're trying to say and you're trying to express it. And you really want them to understand and hear you.
Yeah.
But if you're, and again, this happens to me all the time, if you're too loud or whatever, it gets lost. Like they can't get past, like, dude, you sound angry or you sound upset.
That's what I'm saying. I wonder if people listening to this pod, do they think that I'm like an angry person? Because sometimes I can get, you know how I get sometimes. Like, but it
Oh,
really,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm really not. I'm just like, it's just funny to me that he said that because I'm like, if I'm trying to make a point, whether it's relationship stuff or anything else, like I do get very, like, I want to be heard and I want people to understand what I'm trying to say. And sometimes it just comes across.
Yeah. And not everybody's like that too.
Yeah.
I've ran across people that don't get passionate about anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't even know how those people live.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that, but I'm also somewhat jealous of them because they're even keeled right throughout the whole
Yeah.
time. And it's just like, really? Like, don't you want to be passionate about something? Don't you want to like, get all immersed into it? And I don't know. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the topic and what you're saying, I guess. So what was the pro for pickup lines?
How did I lead it?
Yeah.
It was more of like, if you don't take your chance, you're never going to know. And like, what's the,
look
like,
at you.
like I don't remember all I said, but I made a convincing argument, I guess. Cause like I said, I won, but like, I don't like pickup lines, but I was like, shoot, like now I got to think of how to spin this, but
You know, okay, so I will say this. A pro for that, for me, is exactly like you let them know right off the bat
Yeah.
what your intentions are.
yeah.
So there's no, there's no ambiguity there. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you have a pickup line, like you're clearly
I like you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I like because you're letting them know up front.
Yeah.
Like instead of just, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the pickup lines, I'm not making a case for pickup lines. But the other approach is, you walk up to somebody and you just introduce yourself.
Yeah.
You're like, hi, my name's Jose, and how are you doing, or whatever. But that sometimes they feel is a pickup line because they know we're interested at that point.
Right.
And sometimes you get the cold shoulder, like, hey, dude, I got a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay, great for you. I was just saying my name is Jose.
You're in my seat.
Yeah. So please move your boyfriend self onto the other stool over there. But
But yeah.
that would be horrible, right? Or like, let's say you walked up, I was like, hi, my name's Jose. You're like, oh, I have a boyfriend. I was like, yeah, I just want to let you know your tag
Yeah.
on your dress is out.
Don't even
But,
talk to women if your intentions isn't. Don't even.
But I'm glad you have a boyfriend and you told me. I don't know why you randomly told me that, but 'cause
Yeah.
anyway, sorry.
But so we finished up the Love is Blind a few weeks ago. So we're going to start on a new segment. So we wanted to talk about the 5 love languages. And the sources for this, I'm using actually the book by Gary Chapman. And this is, I didn't know this until I started researching for these episodes, but like this is the singles edition. So my
I need
mother,
that one.
my mother bought me this book like 10 years ago or something. And I've never read the married version one, but I'm assuming it's probably similar. I mean, like, I don't know what would be really different, but
I just had the cliff notes for it now.
yeah, maybe
kind of look at it that
maybe
way.
it's a little bit smaller, but I think that most people, even if you haven't read this book, I would say the majority of people are very familiar with the languages. Maybe you can't say them all, but like we've all either heard them in passing through a movie, something like that. So we wanted to do a new segment, kind of breaking down each of these. Now, we did do a gifts episode early on. It was episode 4 titled 13 Pairs of Slippers. So we're only going to do 4 because we already did the gifts. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that. We kind of talked about the importance of gift giving and what we think that means and et cetera. And we can kind of talk about it a little bit throughout these other ones. But if you haven't listened to that, go back. But so we're using this book as the research. And then the first one that we wanted to do today is words of affirmation. So I think that words have a huge impact on what you think about yourself. And when you think about like your childhood relationships, and when you think about the words, like we learn words from like our parents, right? When you're a baby, you're already hearing that, right? So it kind of started making me think about if your parents are very, if they give you words of affirmation when you're little, don't you think that that would kind of like, you're starting to pick up on those things? So we do get a lot of stuff from our parents that maybe we don't even realize.
Yeah,
You know
I'm
what
sure
I
it
mean?
influences us for sure.
Yeah, but if you have a parent that's always like, you're horrible, you're never going to amount to anything, blah, 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 you'd probably grow up with those tendencies of thinking that you're not worth anything.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Or, the opposite effect too. And I know this happens to a lot of guys that I know. It's like if their mom was like, you're the greatest, you're the best, you can do no wrong, whatever, in a relationship.
Sound like my mom. No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
exactly. But I mean, like in a relationship, when they grow up, they think that, and then that may make them treat their woman a
Wait a
little
minute,
bit.
I'm not? When did this happen? No.
You are not the
My
goat.
mother's lying to me? Is that what you're trying to tell me? No, just kidding.
But
No,
like
I
when
get
you were growing up, like what did your mom, did she give you words of affirmation? How did that make you feel growing up?
She did when I was little. As I got older, I didn't get it so much. But my mothers tend to baby you, and I don't like being babied, right? Or, even when I was little, I didn't particularly care for it. Now I kind of wish that I did. You know what I mean? So it was a little rougher when I was growing up, and I grew up like impoverished. So like, yeah. It was different. So I was already toughening up. Plus, I grew up in a tough neighborhood, so it would behoove me not to be a baby or
you
act
grew up
like
on
a
the
baby.
streets.
Yeah. No, for real. And I saw that even with my friends because my buddies and their mothers would talk to them that way too.
Yeah.
And you know how it is, just like stop. Like I'm not a baby anymore. Stop trying to make me into a baby. But I get it now. Now that I'm an adult, I get it. Like when you're when you have a small child, especially if you're a mom, I can imagine like you want to keep them, they're your babies like forever. But of course they grow up just like everybody else, and then they go out into the world, and you got to be careful about that.
I think we see that when you get into a new relationship, and you're starting to learn that person. It seems very clear to me the people who were talked down to their whole life. You can't help it. It's such a strong thing in your life, the spoken word.
Oh yeah,
and it's been proven.
Powerful.
I mean, forever. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's just
words are absolutely powerful, and not only that. Sometimes, and I've come across this. It's funny that you say, when you say things, you're passionate, but there's been times when I said things in passing and didn't really mean to offend anybody, but it offended somebody horribly. And they're like, the other day when you said this, I didn't really like it. And I was like, when did I say that?
So they had like a trigger from something?
Yeah, it's that's what I'm saying. It's powerful. Or maybe they just didn't like the way I said it. Or again, maybe I was just making an observation and I didn't think much of it, but it turns out that it stuck with them for the longest time, so much to the point that they felt they needed to call me out on it and be like, hey, just FYI, you said this, and I didn't particularly care for it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry, but that's how powerful it is.
Yeah.
And, for me, once I got to a certain age, I didn't get too much of that. So, yeah, I don't know, because that's the other part. If you get used to not, like, I always knew that, my mother cared for me. Don't get me wrong, I know she loved me and all that, but she got busy, she would do stuff. So I didn't always get it. So I was just like, no, I mean, I know she loves me. And I kind of grew up that same way, thinking you don't need to tell me all the time. Like I get it, which was ironic because I do tell my kids all the time that I love them. So maybe subconsciously.
Now you're trying to make up for it? Or
maybe, it's weird. But yeah, words do matter for sure. And they are powerful things.
I think we should always tell people that we love them. I mean, like, it's not hurting anything, you know what I mean,
No.
to express your feelings like that. But I think that for women, I hate to say we're more emotional, but like, they have the saying of like, some women say that, saying like hearing horrible things from your boyfriend, husband is worse than being beaten because the words stay longer, right? The bruises, they fade, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not condoning this at all. I'm just saying that like,
it's different.
I carry on triggers from things that men have said to me in my past, in my new relationship. You can't help it.
Oh yeah.
You're just like, oh, I guess I am ugly or fat or like whatever.
Yeah. If you hear that when you're a kid,
and
again, you're thinking, oh, we're just kids, but it sticks with you.
Yeah.
And then you're an adult and somebody says it, jokingly, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I'm feeling a certain kind of way about this. Like, why am I feeling this way about it?
But even things in like my early 20s, like being in toxic relationships, like I still carry some of that. I mean, I've gotten better at it, but like it still lingers. It still hurts.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes too, when you're in a relationship and you're fighting about something and you bring up something old, like that's already squashed. It's like, well, maybe because she can still hear it, right? Like, I don't know, whatever you said, you're like, oh, you're stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
It may
Remember
come
you said
out.
that back in 1994? Yes. I've apologized like a million times since that time. But no, and I'll just say one more other thing about that is, as a parent, you always have to be very, very careful how you talk to your kids. And you shouldn't have to, but you really do.
Yeah.
Because you never know what kind of complex you can give them.
Yeah.
Unintentionally, mind you. Unintentionally. But as soon as you say something that you think is joking, they don't know any better, right? So they think it's a thing, and then
don't be like, oh, you're getting a little pudgy. Look at you, like,
oh man, yeah, because they could go either way. Either it might turn them to eat more and try to compensate, or they might turn into like workout freaks, right, and gym rats, because they're like, I don't want to ever be fat ever. Like I want to stay in shape, and I'm, like sometimes they could be healthy, if that's really your passion, but you never know where these things come from. I mean, maybe we'll do an episode one of these days about fetishes, but that's also how things are formed, right?
Yeah.
Whenever certain fetishes that I hear people have, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to get too into that, but it's like, how does that form? Like, how does that formulate? Where does that come from?
It's like it starts off with like one significant event, whatever that is, and it triggered something in your brain, and then now you associate. Yeah. It could be like, I'm attracted to this cup right here. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe something, I don't know.
Yeah. Or even hats. Like maybe you saw when you were a kid, your dad wore hats, and then all of a sudden you grow up and you're like, I have to wear a baseball cap, or I have to wear some sort of hat because my dad always had a cowboy hat on.
Right.
So I have to do it too. And it's like, really? Why? Why do you have to do that? So it's just interesting that, but words are extremely powerful because you can remember. And here's the bad part. Since memory is so bad, you can misremember things really, really bad.
You rewrite history in your mind.
Well, absolutely. But words are thoughts essentially. Yeah. And so when you think of a conversation or you think back on somebody, you think about the conversations, things that were said. Mm-hmm. And so it resonates with you. So
yeah, not everybody has it recorded on a podcast that they can go back and listen to. It's not transcribed. Which I've had to do.
And I think she said I said something. I said, no, I didn't. And then I
You're like, I got proof.
It's like, shoot, how did you go back and manipulate time? Because I know I didn't say it. I don't care what this recording says. Yeah. You're going to believe me or
wasn't me.
Lying ears.
But there's 3 different types of words. So the first one is words of encouragement. So an example of this that they use in the book is when you're losing weight and you say, like, you go to your friend and you say, like, I want to lose weight or whatever. You can either say, yeah, we all need to, right? Kind of like brushing it off. Or you can say, well, it's really hard to do that, which is discouraging them. Or you could say, I know you can succeed and I'm here to support you. So like everything that you say to somebody, you can, like, you know what I mean? But it's kind of weird too. Cause like if you were to come to me and say like, man, I really want to lose weight. And I'm just saying like, oh man, I know, me too. It's really hard. I didn't mean in a discouraging way, but maybe subconsciously in your mind, you would take that as like, oh, she thinks I can't do it. It's so weird, right?
Man, I mean, for sure. I guess, like I said, sometimes you can offend people. Sometimes you have to be careful. I mean, I don't know, because I'd like to pick and choose my words whenever I speak to people. But even then, sometimes I can miss the mark. Yeah. So you never know how people are going to take it.
I know.
You just never know how people are going to take it. What I will say is this. Typically, the way you know when somebody really cares about you and loves you is that when you share good news, they're genuinely happy for you. Yeah. So like in that situation, somebody says, hey, I lost 5 pounds. Like, way to go. Like, keep it up, keep up the good work. I've always, I'm on the fence about that too, because it's like, you do want to congratulate them, but at the same time, like you always have to be careful, because if they get to a point where they're like, oh, I'm good now. Right. Because if you get that affirmation, right? Like, okay, I've completed it. Let's say your goal was 10 pounds. You lost 5 and they're like, you look fantastic. You look amazing. You're like, oh, okay, I guess I can stop.
Don't lose 1 more pound. You look great.
Right. So you just never know. Like, especially if that's their end goal, then great. You accomplished it. Like, I'm completely happy for you. If not, it's like, we'll keep on.
So do you think that some people, when they say that, maybe they want the other person to be like, that's amazing. Like, are you going to keep going? Like, do you want that? Or would you, some people would take that as like, wait, I need to lose more. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's how you can weed out people that care about you. Because if they come back with negative energy, then they probably don't like, let's say you do look fantastic now, you lost that 5 pounds, and they're like, yeah, but you could still afford to lose a little bit here and a little bit here. You're like, all right, I didn't need that. You know what I mean? Like I didn't give you that information so you could throw it back at me and tell me how not good I'm doing. But that's how you can tell, right? If you tell somebody good news and they're genuinely happy for you, then 9 times out of 10, they really care about you. And if you tell them something and they kind of poo-poo on it, they're probably not. There's something else behind.
Or they're projecting something. Like maybe they want to lose weight. Yeah.
They could be, a lot of different things. It's like, great for you.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. And it's like, really? Because it didn't sound like it.
I had one girlfriend one time back in the day. I was a little bit heavier and then I had kind of lost some weight. And we were out one night and she was like, oh, you've lost a lot of weight. And then she said like, I don't want you to be skinnier than me, so can you not lose any more? And I was like, really? She did. But again, you're projecting because you feel a certain way about
crap. I know. Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. That's
but that's what I'm saying. She was really insecure about her own weight, but like you saying that,
can you please not get any hotter than me? Because I need to be.
Yeah, I want to be the hot friend. You can be the fat friend or whatever. Like, I don't know. I know it's
Holy crap. Oh, man. Well, and guys have a version of that, but it's much more cruel. Sometimes a guy, let's say, is into a girl and he tells his buddy, like, I'm into her, and then his buddy goes after her.
oh,
That's when, that
that's
hurts.
terrible.
That's when you really know that's not your buddy anymore. Like, he is not even close to being your friend.
Yeah.
Because you've already told him, like, I'm into her, and then, like, the rule is it's offhand. Like, you're not supposed to pursue that person.
So they do that because, do you think that maybe they're jealous of you and they don't want you to have any kind of good fortune with things? So they're going to try to take everything.
Sometimes, yeah. They don't want you to, like that friend. They don't want you to do better than them, so to speak.
Yeah.
And especially if you're like goo goo gaga over her, like, let's say she's really pretty and she's got a great personality, like she's fun, she's outgoing, she just sparks up her room every time she walks in. Like, that guy could be like, oh, you like her? It's like, okay, now I want that.
Yeah.
It's it's like with kids. Like, you can have a kid and he has a bunch of toys, and let's say in the corner there's this ball that he hasn't played for in a year, and then another kid comes along and he doesn't have a lot of toys, and he sees that ball and he starts playing with it. All of a sudden it's like, nope, that's my ball. It's like, but you haven't even played with it for like a year. Like, really? And he's like, I don't care. It's my ball. Now all of a sudden I'm interested in it again.
It's kind of the same thing with relationships. Like, let's say you break up with your girl and then you're like, man, she's like nothing. And then she starts getting like attention from another guy, and then you try to go get her back. Because it's like, I don't want you, but no one else is going to have
all
you.
of a sudden I do.
Yeah.
You're still mine. But anyways.
Yeah. The other one is words of praise. And so this one is when you're recognizing someone's accomplishments. And I thought about, I think we talked about in the past about work, how everybody likes to hear encouraging words from their boss. Like, hey, you're doing a really good job. I really appreciate you. Like how far that will take you and how you feel about yourself. And you probably, if you get that, not a lot, because then it becomes white noise. Yeah. But like, if you get it just enough, it would encourage me to work even harder, even better.
Oh, yeah.
So like,
it depends. So I can tell you right now, those you have to be very careful, because sometimes it sounds like BS. And if it sounds like BS, they can usually kind of sniff that out early on and be like, yeah, those are very superficial congratulatory, comments or whatever. Or, it's lacking. I would just say this: whenever, if at work and they actually did an accomplishment, you need to be very specific about the accomplishment. Yeah. You can't just say, hey, you've been doing a good job. Right. That doesn't mean anything. Like, and what have I been doing a good job in exactly? You know what I mean? So yeah, you have to, but here's the other thing too, and I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate in this situation. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but let's say it's your husband, right? And let's say he's about, for medical reasons, he's overweight, right? And the doctor already said, look, you got a bad heart, you got diabetes, whatever. If you lost, 40 pounds, that's going to go a long way in your health, longevity, and you can probably get off some of these meds, whatever. And so let's say he's been working at it, and it's hard. It really is difficult to lose weight. 3 months into it, and he's lost 5 pounds. And he's like, look at me, I lost 5 pounds. And don't get me wrong, you're happy about it. You're really, really genuinely happy that he is losing weight. But how do you say it and at the same time continue to encourage him? So in other words, not to say like, yeah, you can't go over the top.
You'd be like, oh, you're 15% away from your goal or whatever. Like, maybe you break it down into numbers.
You know what? As a guy, that might actually work. That's actually, not a bad way of approaching it. Man, you do know men.
I know a thing or two.
Because we know, but honestly, that would actually work. So on the reverse, let me ask you, how would you, same situation except it's your wife, what's the best way to do that? Because the number thing is brilliant. You can do that with a guy.
That's all the material I have. I don't know.
How do you convey that to a woman? Like, it's great that you did it, but keep going for sure.
Yeah, I don't.
How do you do that?
I don't know. Women, write in, let me know. I don't. How do you want to be told?
There is no way.
I don't know. Women and weight, it's such a touchy subject. I steer clear.
You avoid it at all costs for sure.
You're like, baby, you look great. Like that's all you say.
Well, and that's the thing about the words of affirmation, because they are powerful, right? And I think when it comes to, and I'm making generalizations, but when it comes to like conversations and talking to one another, women tend to enjoy that a little bit more. Men have to be very careful what they say and how they say it. So sometimes it's like walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know. You don't know. And here's the other thing, because I had wrote down, a couple of questions. It's like, the other part is like, when do you say it? Yeah. When's the appropriate time? It's like right after a fight.
When
like,
the mood's right.
You look beautiful when you're angry. It's usually not going to go over well.
No. Honestly,
but they do though. There's something about when a woman is angry, but she still loves you, and you can tell. That's when a guy usually says, you look beautiful when you're angry, because you know that they're mad at you, but not to the point where they loathe you. It's just they're just mad at you, and they still care about you. So it's like, oh.
Well, it's like I said earlier, like you should always tell people that you love them. So like in that question, I would say like you should say whatever you feel as long as it's positive in that moment. There's no harm from saying like, baby, I love you. Like just, you could be, stuff face full of like macaroni and cheese or whatever. And you're like, baby, I love you. Like there's no wrong
Usually
time.
Right after sex is that.
I guess
that's the best time right there.
Yeah. Before you roll over. Oh, maybe.
Kidding. But yeah, I mean, like, when do you say it? And
I think when the mood strikes you, I think that saying something positive, you should be able to say it almost at any time.
Anytime. Okay. I mean, yeah. Well, okay. Sorry. I'm going to let you finish.
That's okay.
I do still have other questions.
But the last one is kind words. And so this one is talking about the tone of voice when you say it. Mm-hmm. So the example that I have here is when you say, I would love to do the dishes. If you say it in a positive way, it's like, baby, I'd love to do the dishes. Or, yeah, I'd love to do the dishes. Like, right? So like.
Great, do the dishes. She said she wanted it.
Sounds good. I'm going. But like.
Can we just get transcripts and it just says that she'd love to do the dishes, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the tone of voice, even saying I love you, like what if someone says like, I mean, this happened to me where they kind of force you to say it, like tell me you love me even though you don't want to say it. When you say it, the tone is going to be different than when you say I love you and you genuinely mean it. Mm. So like.
Yeah, because that was the other part, right? That was the other question that I had. So it fits perfectly. It's like, can you say certain things too much to the point where it loses its meaning?
I think that depends on the person. Because some people get annoyed when they hear, it depends. Like if it's not their love language and they don't want to hear words of affirmation and maybe it seems annoying to them. Mm-hmm. But again, you're playing to your audience. Like is this one of their love languages? If it is, you probably can't say enough good things. Like you could go on and on. They never get tired of it. But like if it's not yours and you're like, you tell her she's beautiful every day. Some women get annoyed by that. I don't understand it, but like some women do.
But that's what I'm saying. Or even worse, they start to take it for granted.
Yeah.
And that's worse than than it losing its meaning, because now it's like you should say it. If you're not saying it, like yeah, he's just going to say it. He says that all the time.
I think we should tailor everything to the person that we're with because everyone's going to be different. So I think we talked about in the past of like how you're kind of different in every relationship. So yeah, if I'm with someone and words of affirmation is not important to them, it's not going to mean anything really when I say, baby, you're the best. Like you're the greatest. I'm so proud of you, whatever. It may not mean anything.
Maybe not. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know. The words of affirmation, if it's something that like, for instance, you're just, if that's your love language, right? Mm. And you like to hear the little things like, thank you for being so sweet. Thank you for doing this. Or even that. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's one thing to, if they accomplish something, like let's say they just did the dishes or they just vacuumed, did the laundry, whatever. And you're like, oh, thank you. I really appreciate you doing that. Mm. That's words of affirmation, but that's like you did something.
Yeah.
But then there's other words of affirmation where it's just completely out of the blue. That's when things get really interesting for me. If you say something and they weren't expecting it, like you hadn't done anything particular, and all of a sudden they hit you with, I'd just like to tell you that I love you for being you. Like, you're always so kind, and like you hadn't done anything. Like you're just sitting around.
Yeah.
And usually the question is, what happened? What did you do?
Yeah.
What did you mess up, or what do you need?
Yeah.
But because that happens a lot too. But yeah, it's catching them off guard because again, and don't get me wrong, you always want to appreciate when somebody does something for you, but it just sending it randomly with no context out of the blue, that to me, that usually will like generate some spontaneity. Like, oh, like just like I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Those are always fun.
I feel like a lot of women get that when they're around the house and they're looking all bummy and stuff, and their boyfriend will be like, "Man, baby, you're beautiful," and it's like, "What? Like I look ugly.
I don't.
I got my sweatpants on." Like, yeah, it does kind of throw you off because, like, really, you think I'm beautiful right now? Because I'm like, I look terrible. But
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The timing is everything. So if they're having a bad day and they're frustrated over whatever, they might not want to hear that right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not in the mood to hear that. And other times you can actually change their mood by doing that.
Yeah.
Because then they get caught off guard. So you just didn't know, like you said, you have to really know your audience and who that person is.
Yeah.
And you have to try certain things out from time to time. But I think no matter what, right, any relationship is going to require some sort of a word. You're going to have to communicate with one another.
Right.
There's just no way around that, unfortunately.
And that's kind of a good segue because it's like when we're talking about love languages, it doesn't always mean in a romantic relationship. So we talked about like your boss telling you you're doing a good job or whatever. And you'd mentioned like the text thing, like, I mean, Jose, you will send me texts randomly from time to time and you just say, thank you for being a friend or like whatever. And it's on these like weird times where I'm just like, okay, like I feel really good because like he appreciates me and whatever you were feeling in that moment, you wanted to tell me right then that you appreciate our friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that stuff is really important.
I do that a lot with friends and family in general. I do that because you know how you are, not you, but you know how people are in general. Like you start thinking about people for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go so far as to call them up and you'll be like, hey, I don't know why, but I just felt like I needed to call you because they just came into your head.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating when that happens is that if they were thinking about you at the exact same time or even more spooky sometimes is that they really needed a friend at that moment, but just didn't reach out to you, and you reached out to them. Like that's when things get really, really interesting there because this is like, oh man, I'm glad you called.
Yeah.
And like, I've been going through some stuff, and this like, well, tell me about it. Like I was thinking about you, and this works out perfectly. So it's time for us to catch up, and and I love doing that, and I love it when they say the same thing. Like, yeah, I was thinking about you too, or like, yeah, I'm going through some stuff right now. It's like, well, tell me about it. What's going on?
It's really strange how that works out sometimes.
It's spooky.
Yeah,
it's spooky. I think to a certain extent, and I don't want to get too hokey here. I think we are all interconnected, and I was telling you here recently, I was coming across that a lot where. I say certain things and other people, it's like clicking with them and they're like, oh, I was just going to say that, or I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Or
I'll reach to my phone to text you and then you text me and I'm like, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah. It's spooky, but I do feel like you make connections with certain people and, depending on how you look at it, cause you always hear that stuff about vibrations and same wavelength and things like that. And maybe there's something to it. I don't know. I mean, science can't explain it yet, but it seems to make sense.
Yeah. Well, I think words of affirmation is a big one. I actually looked up kind of where it ranks. And so words of affirmation based on a recent survey is voted number 2 out of the 5. So it seems pretty important to people. We talked about, how like words when we're young, first hearing it when we're babies and things like that, or even in the womb, they talk about that, like listening to classical music and how it changes like your brain waves and stuff like that. So I thought it was interesting that it was number 2. And just as a side note, we already did gifts, but based on the state, Texas number 1 love language was gifts, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like
it's Texas.
Everything's bigger. We want big gifts. Like, why do you think that is?
The gifts thing. So for us, keeping up with the Joneses is not just a phrase, it's actually a thing.
Yeah, maybe in Kansas, it's probably not so much.
Yeah. So, I mean,
all the Kansas people are like, hey.
Yeah, well, we have, the Dallas Cowboys, and it's Jerry Jones, and he's extravagant. And if you look at the way Dallas is set up, everybody's always trying to go bigger and better.
Yeah.
Like they're always trying to outdo one another. I think sometimes it's a shame, but that's just the way it is. And so, yeah, gifts. Although I did go out on and not to digress too much, but I did go on a date once, and she told me that she was just like, my love language is gift giving. And she was already like looking at things to get me. Which was it threw me off a little bit, but if that's her love language, that's her love language.
I do the exact same thing. Yeah. If you haven't listened to our gift episode, like gifts is probably my number one, but it's also the way, like if I'm newly dating someone, I'm already thinking like, oh, I can get him this. I can get him like.
She was doing, what are those things called on the collar? The little plastic things that you put on your collar to keep
that goes in there. It usually comes with the shirts.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Well, because she felt my collar and she goes, oh, you don't have one of those. I want to say they're collar clips, but I'm sure that's not what it's called. And I said, yeah, it is. I said, but it's plastic. And she's like, oh no, I'll get you some metal ones. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It threw me off because I was like, that sounds good. But they do make the really fancy schmancy ones. But that's where her mind goes immediately because that's just what
I'm always cataloging gifts that I want to give people in my life all the time. And I'll usually write it down or take snapshots like of photos from the internet and stuff. It's like, okay, when their birthday comes up, I know what they're going to get them or what I'm going to get them and stuff like that. And so, yeah, for gift giving, like I do like to receive gifts as well. It makes me feel like you appreciate me, but I love to give them just as much.
Well, and I'll say this much too. When it comes to words of affirmation, right, there are some, for lack of a better word, generic, like I love you. It's not generic exactly, but like everybody says it, right? So like it's universal. I love you is a phrase. But I would say in addition to that, one of the things that I've learned to do is to really listen to women when they talk because they really will tell you the way to their heart.
Right.
If you really, really genuinely listen. And it's something that as you progress, if you decide, let's say you start out dating, you go on your first date, second date, and then over time it starts to turn into a long-term relationship. If you've paid attention, it's going to go a long, long, long way.
Yeah.
Especially if they told you like, I don't like this, I like that. You can tailor it and you can figure out words that are going to mean a lot more to them than just the random, I love you, which, is a good thing too. I'm not saying don't say that. So we should
come with a new phrase for I love you.
No, would you remember, do you remember that movie Ghost? Right? When they
ditto, yeah.
Yeah. So the ditto, right? It to them, that word meant I love you too. They just didn't say I love you.
To him. She didn't like it.
Fair enough. But it was tailored to him and to her. But it was an understanding. Yeah. So for them, they understood that because that's an exclusive thing between them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just thinking because it's not an affirmation per se, but like if I'm thinking about words in general, when you're in a relationship and you have like inside jokes or like the ditto thing or whatever, that's so unique to you guys, that feels so special.
Doesn't
and
it,
like
though?
if the relationship doesn't work out, you may try that with the next person and it doesn't take. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, well, I just do. And it's weird how like inside stuff, it's so powerful.
That's why it's so powerful. Yeah. That's why it's so powerful. And I think we've all done that. That's why for me, I hate using generic pet names.
Babe.
Yeah. I hate babe. But I've done it before. Don't get me wrong. Like I've done it. I've called people babe, when I'm in a relationship and then I catch myself and I'm like, oh, you're so lame. Can you think of something better? But it's hard. If you've had like 5 different relationships, you got to come up with 5 different pet names.
Yeah. Well, a few weeks ago we came up with Animal Cracker Face. So I mean,
Animal Cracker Face.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to that episode. But I wrote down too, like just from a psychological standpoint, it says that research has shown that positive words increases your cognitive reasoning and strengthening your frontal lobes. So actually positive words motivates your brain, which is interesting. So it kind of like, it's almost like, I wrote down the term sharing the love, but it's like, if you're positive to me, that's feeding that energy in my brain. I'm more likely to be positive to someone else.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like this.
It's It's a ripple effect,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, whatever you put out there. And I've said this before, I tell my kids all the time, like, whatever you put out there is going to come back.
Right.
If I go around the office.
Karma.
Well, yeah, karma for sure. But I mean, I can go around, let's say you're in the office, and I can go around the office and tell everybody good morning. They're probably going to tell me good morning back.
Yeah.
But if I go around saying, hey, get to work, or go do this, or, you're messing up, or, hey, you didn't give me that report, it's a lot of negative energy. They're going to start giving me that, like, here you go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on it. Like, just give me a little bit. I just logged in. So whatever you give is going to come back in some form or another, right? Now, again, sometimes, let's say you say good morning and you don't get it back the same way. That's also kind of it's giving you some insight.
Yeah.
Maybe they're having a bad day. So it's not that they're, jerks or anything like that, but they're having a bad day. So now you can be more in tune, like, oh, okay, hey, you all right? What's going on? No, I had a flat tire this morning, like I spilled coffee on my shirt. And sometimes you need that, right? Because they just need to talk it out, right?
Yeah.
And so now so in that setting, you're at work, but now you know that they're having a bad day. So you might want to take it easy on them.
Yeah.
And then, or try to focus them on something else, like, okay, like, I'm so sorry, like, do you need to go home, or do you, no, I got it all figured out. I was like, all right, cool. Well, when you get a moment, we need we need this report or whatever. Can you please send it over to me? But at least that way, but it's different than, hey man, where's that report? And you already know they're having a bad day. It's like, now they're going to reshift all their badness to you.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, I hate that person. And it's like, they didn't do anything. They just asked for a report, but you caught them on a bad day.
Well, maybe it's not a bad day, because it just made me think about, like, a long time ago, one of my jobs. Like, I'm not really a morning person, so I live alone. So when I wake up, I don't have to.
I am a morning person.
Yeah, but like when I wake up, I don't have to talk to anybody, right? So like, it was like I'd go to work and my old boss would be like, good morning. And I'm like, And he had to tell me, he was like, look, Robbie, when I say good morning, you have to say good morning. Like, you can't. And I was like, but I don't want to talk in the morning. But like, it wasn't I was having a bad day. It's just like, I don't want to talk first thing in the morning. Like, I need my coffee. Like, can I just get settled?
You know what's funny? I think I've heard women say that way more to me than I've ever heard a guy say that to me. I don't know what it is. I wonder if just in women in general are not morning people, perhaps.
I don't really sleep very well, so I think I'm always tired and I stay up way too late. But like, yeah, I mean, in the morning, it's like, I don't want to talk for like 2 hours. Like, just let me be. I used to be like, even as a kid, I remember my parents would get mad because I'd come in, like I'd be sleeping, and my parents are early risers, right? Yeah. And I'd walk through the hall and they'd be like, good morning. I'm like, like, my dad would get so bad. It's just like, I'm talking to you.
I don't understand mumble. Yeah, I don't know.
If I ever live with someone, I have to tell them, like, dude, don't talk to me for like 2 hours. Let me have my coffee. But it's the same thing. Even now when I go in the office, like, if there's a bunch of, like, as soon as I sit down, that's not the time for you to, like, your point, like, come at me like, I need this report. Like, can I at least turn my computer on? Like, can I sit down? Like, I got my coat on still. Like, come on, man. But I was just thinking,
I don't care about all that. I need my report. No.
Yeah. Words of affirmation for me, it's not super important, but there are certain times in a relationship. So you and I were talking about this the other day, but like, if I take the time to get dressed up and like, I'm putting in that effort for my man, that's the time where it's like, I just want you to say, you look nice, you look beautiful, I love your outfit, whatever it is. Yeah. But when you don't get that, I'm wondering if it's because affirmations isn't really a big deal to me, that maybe they're like, oh, well, it'd be the situation where I'm all bummy at home and then they're like, you're so beautiful. I'm like, ugh, like, like, what are you talking about? Yesterday I spent 2 hours getting ready. You didn't say nothing.
Well, like, and I can't speak for every man, but what I can tell you is that I've done this before, and I'm pretty sure other guys have too, where it's those moments that you notice your partner when they're in their element. And so they're not doing anything particularly special, right? Like you said, they're bummed out. But then you look at them and you see them just doing stuff. And then you just start to think to yourself, like, man, I'm just a lucky bastard. You know what I mean? I'm just such a lucky bastard. Like, I can't believe she's hanging with me. And then that's when you get that spontaneity or that spontaneous, like, hey baby, you look absolutely gorgeous today. And she's like, what are you talking about? Shut up. I'm trying get over here and help me out.
She's on the floor with the dustpan. Like,
exactly.
Come on, man.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just weird because I know that, and I'm making generalizations, right? But I know sometimes men typically don't talk, and we're visual creatures. So if you think about that, right, and I've heard that people say that all the time. I know I love to look at things and watch, but when you observe something like that, I can tell you right now that if he's feeling that inspired to say something, then he's really just observing and just taking everything into account. So a lot of times when typical guy, the woman comes over and he's just sitting still, just in his own thoughts, and they're like, "What are you thinking about?" It's like, I'm just thinking, right? And it might not be about anything, but when we observe and then we feel inspired to actually say something, then that's when you know that there's a good connection, right?
How do you feel about words of affirmation? Like, when is it that you want to be told either encouraging words or whatever? Like, do you know what your prime time is for that?
Here's my, and this is my get up, and this is strictly my get up, right? I'm sure there's other people, but
no, only you.
Only me, right? For right now, I'm just going to say this is only me. I don't like getting compliments. And the thank yous, I'm okay with the thank you. I'm all right with that. As long as it doesn't turn into this big gushy thing. Now it's weird. It depends on what type of relationship, right? 'Cause like you said, it's not always just romantic. It could be just like a friendship or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if I definitely do something for sure, or sometimes for me the randomness, there's something more special about the random. If you dropped a bunch of books and then I picked them up and you say thank you, it's kind of expected to a certain degree, and you get kind of upset if they don't. Like if you just give them all their books and then they just like, okay, bye. You're like, oh, that witch. She didn't even say thank you, right? Or because then it's expected. Then I feel like, oh, like you expect that from me, even though it's really not my responsibility. Let's say you open the door, and you open the door for your partner all the time, and they don't say thank you. They just like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, what do you want, a cookie? Like, no, I guess not. But you see what I'm saying, right? And then, but if they do say thank you, again, it's kind of reciprocated. Like I did something and then you thank me. But if you're just thinking about all the different ways that, let's say, you care about somebody or you care about me and love me, and it's just randomly out of the blue, then that tells me that you're thinking about me. And it's not because of what I can do for you. It's just out of appreciation. Like, hey, I got a good friend, or hey, I got a good husband, or I got a good boyfriend. Like, I just want to let them know. Because that, to me, is a little more meaningful than, again, I like to thank you if I did something for you. Like, hey, my sink isn't working. I go out there and fix it. Oh, thank you. It's like, yeah, no problem. It's cool. But for me, and again, this is just me, just the randomness, right? That's why, again, I don't like compliments. I don't know why. Here's what I think the reason why I don't like compliments. Because I feel like if I take that compliment, then I've accomplished something and I need to keep being better. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But you could still like a compliment, but it doesn't mean that you would give up. Like if someone said like you look really nice this evening, that wouldn't stop you from dressing nice any other evening. Like you'd still continue to do that.
I do, but I want to keep on getting better at it, if that makes sense.
So you don't want someone to compliment you, but you just want to keep doing it for yourself to know that you're.
Yeah. It's there's
when you came in, I complimented you on your shirt. So was that a bad thing?
No. It's good, and I appreciate it. But
I'm just playing.
Have you ever seen? And now I'm going to do my famous going to a movie.
Lord.
And I'm sure you have never seen this movie.
Okay.
But it's called The Adjustment Bureau.
No.
Okay, so in The Adjustment Bureau, it's Matt Damon and I think her name is Emily Blunt. Anyways, the whole premise of it is that there's this bureau, air quotes, that manipulates human events so that things don't go too out of whack. And so in the movie, Matt falls in love with Emily Blunt, but the bureau is trying to keep them apart from one another because he's a politician. And he's like, why are you guys so vested in me being with her? Like, I love her. And he's just like, yeah, you both love each other. But that's the problem. If you guys get together, it'll be enough and you won't aspire to be anything else. Like you'll plateau at being a senator or whatever, when we have plans for you to be the president because you need to like do a lot of good things. But once you have her, it's going to be enough.
Yeah.
And I too do understand that, right? I understand like having enough and at the same time striving to to be better. And I don't know if certain people are like that, where you just want to be better. And it's almost like, again, I'm not trying to discourage people from giving compliments, but it's like you still want to be better. You still want to drive, because the moment that you feel when you accomplished it, now what?
Yeah, but some people, like for me, if I was getting compliments on the way I was dressing or something like that, that to me is also encouragement to keep that up, because it's like you've almost set the bar, right? And you have to like keep with that like persona.
Because now you don't get a comment and you're like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, you get no compliments. You're like, this outfit sucks. But I think in like men and women, like what I've noticed about men in a relationship is that you guys love to hear that you're appreciated. That's like the number one thing that I hear. So like even the simple things that guys are supposed to do, like take you out to dinner, pick you up, open the door, blah, blah, blah. I still say thank you for all those things. Cause like, I want you to know, or I will say randomly, like, I really appreciate the fact that you take me out to these fancy places all the time. I have such a good time with you. Like, I want them to know because I don't want that to stop. I want it to continue.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that I notice and to encourage you to continue that behavior.
Yeah. So just a quick, edit to that, right? So men like to feel appreciated. Mm-hmm. How you make that happen depends on the man, right? Because the words, sometimes words, they do, like some guys are like, yeah, great, I like to hear it. Yeah. Other guys like to, depending on what your language is, they might want something different, right? Yeah. Whatever that is.
That's
and
true.
So, but I think women like to feel appreciated too.
Of course.
It's just that for women, hearing it is, I would say, I've never heard a woman say, I don't want to hear it. Like a guy would be like, thank you, I appreciate it, and then just kind of move on. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not significant, but for a woman, and this is why I'm saying that you have to be very specific in that word of affirmation. It has to be specific to her in the way she is. Yeah. So like, let's say it was a person like yourself, right? And every time we went out, she's just dressed to the nines, looks absolutely just beautiful going out, and every time. So we know that she's putting in that effort. Mm-hmm. Now, you can say, you look beautiful tonight. And you can say that every single time that you go out. But, and this is just me, if I was dating somebody like that, I would be very specific in the compliment. Mm-hmm. So if you're wearing a dress or an accessory or earrings, or your makeup is different than the last time, or your hair is done different, I'm going to be very specific in that, because I know that you put in a lot of effort. And if you're trying something new, I'm going to make it a point to compliment that.
Because you feel beautiful, maybe too general. It's like, is he just saying that because it's part of your speech?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's exactly right. Because if you say that every time, it's like, well, okay, I got a night. I look beautiful tonight. Great. And I know that you guys don't mean like, yeah, great, whatever. Yeah. But if you're very specific, like again, even for a man, let's just say the words affirmation are for that man. And let's say that man fixes everything in the house. As soon as the toilet's out, he gets the plunger out. As soon as the sink's out, he fixes that. The furnace goes out. The car needs to be done. The tires need to go get rotated, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like if you're very specific and you say, dang babe.
You on top of it.
Yeah, and you're like, thank you for all the things that you do. Like all this stuff is running and it gets broken and you fix it and you keep us, on track.
Yeah, you make me feel safe. You make me feel taken care of.
Yeah, like I know that if something breaks down, you're there and I appreciate that. That's much different than, hey, baby, you're the greatest. And that's it. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. Like, don't get me wrong, that feels good. But like, what exactly am I great at?
Yeah, so maybe a good rule of thumb with affirmations is be specific.
Yeah. I'm telling you, as for guys, if the guys are listening, if you're very specific about this, oh my gosh, it will turn your life upside down.
Women love to be complimented on accessories.
Well,
just like
whatever it is for that woman.
It's just that little thing. Yeah. It could be like your earrings or whatever. You're like, wow, those are really interesting earrings or something like that. Like the little things.
I've been single for a while, so I've picked up a few things here and there. Don't get me wrong, I was married too, so you've learned from your mistakes as well. But yeah, the more specific to that person, and the more, again, it's a thing of exclusivity. Excuse me, I can't talk. And if you can do that, it lets them know that you're paying attention. Yeah. Because I hear this a lot from women. It's just like, he doesn't pay attention to me. he doesn't notice. You know, I did all this and he doesn't notice. And he might have.
Yeah.
He just didn't vocalize it. Maybe he's not. I don't know. Like, I don't know the guy, right? But you know, and I don't know the situation. But what I will say is that if you do that to a woman, oh my gosh, you know, she'll reciprocate in all kinds of good ways.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't do it just for that, but it does strengthen the relationship because, you know, they feel appreciated. Let's say she's in arts and crafts. Let's say her getting dressed every day and getting to the nines, that's not her thing, but she likes to do arts and crafts. She likes to paint. She likes to sculpt. She likes to do things, again, very specific to that person, and you compliment them. Or let's say every time you go on vacation, she's always taking care of the kids, making sure they have enough diapers, enough this, that, and the other. And then, you know, you get on, and if anybody's ever traveled with kids, it's not fun. But then you say, you know, thank you for doing that. You know, like I really appreciate, like we were traveling and you took care of, you know, the diaper bag, the bottles, the everything. And like, I really appreciate you doing that because she's going to do it anyways. Mm-hmm. But to hear that just is going to solidify that relationship. And they're like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Because then again, it doesn't make up for all of it. But, you know, being very specific, trust me, it goes a long.
Okay, so I'm going to put this into practice for all of our listeners. We really appreciate the fact that you listen and support.
Yes.
And this was Words of Affirmation. We hope that you stick with us for the next couple of weeks as we kind of explore the other ones. And yeah,
it's a good one.
Till next time.
You.
I appreciate you
for being funny.
Thank you for being a friend. I like your shirt.
Absolutely. All right. Till next time.
Bye.
All right, bye.